My name is Flora. I'm 83 years old, and I live in a small white house on Maple Street in Akron, Ohio. I spent 32 years running the old bookstore downtown. These days, I'm simply Flora, retired, and there's something I want to share with you, something it took me nearly a whole lifetime to finally say out loud. After 70, you may discover that you truly do not need a large circle of friends at all. I know that sounds hard, maybe even a little heartless. But if you are 55, 65, or perhaps 72 right now, and you are wearing yourself out trying to hold on to every old friendship, please stay with me for a little while. Let an old woman speak honestly, in the way I wish someone had spoken to me while I was still young enough to understand sooner. 8 years ago, when I turned 70, I believed retirement would finally give me time for all the people I cared about. I imagined long lunches, endless phone conversations, weekend outings with the women I had known since my bookstore years. But instead the calls became fewer. The invitations slowly disappeared, and for the first time in my life I felt the deep, aching silence of an empty calendar. At first, I blamed myself. Then I blamed everyone else. But eventually, I came to understand something that changed my life completely. Nothing was wrong with me, and nothing was wrong with them. Life had simply continued moving forward, and I had not yet learned how to move along with it. So today, I want to tell you the truth I learned the difficult way, the truth that finally gave me peace, and if even one sentence reaches your heart, then every one of my 83 years will feel worthwhile. Let me take you back to October of last year. I had baked my own birthday cake, chocolate with far too much frosting, exactly the way I enjoy it. 1 candle. 83. I lit the candle, watched the little flame dance softly, and realized no one was coming. Not Margaret, who had worked closing shifts beside me at the bookstore for 23 years. Not my daughter Sarah, who was struggling through her own divorce while raising 2 teenagers. Not even my grandson Ethan, who was 12 and usually at least sent me a silly little emoji. The house was so still, I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I sat there wearing my robe until the candle finally burned itself out, and I cried. Not loud tears, not dramatic tears, just the quiet kind that come when you finally admit you have been waiting for something that may never happen again. That was the evening the storm inside me began. Not the loud kind, but the silent kind. The kind where you smile politely at the cashier at Kroger, while deep inside you wonder, when did I become someone people only remember when they need a book recommendation from years ago? After 70, the things that once held friendships together often begin to fade away. No more busy mornings at the bookstore where Margaret and I shared coffee and gossip. No more PTA meetings or soccer games where other mothers naturally became your social world. No more work schedules forcing you to see the same people 5 days a week. Everything that once kept us connected slowly disappeared, and what remained was simply who we really were underneath it all. I began to notice how many of my friendships had been built on convenience instead of true connection. We were close because we complained about the same boss, or loved the same romance novels, or because our children were the same age. But once those things changed, the friendships quietly drifted away without a word. I had spent decades convincing myself that keeping every friendship alive made me a good person. Birthday cards, Christmas letters, late-night messages when someone's marriage fell apart. I thought that was loyalty. Looking back now, I realize I was mostly afraid of being alone with myself. Then Margaret passed away in March. She was 84, only 1 year older than me. We had laughed together through 3 different store managers, 2 recessions, and 1 divorce each. I stood at the back of the church wearing my nicest black coat. And when my turn came to speak, I realized something that hit me like icy rain. I was no longer her closest friend. I was simply someone from another chapter of her life. The woman who gave the main eulogy had only known Margaret for 6 years. Her neighbor, the one who walked dogs with her every morning. 6 years. Meanwhile, I carried over 4 decades of memories with Margaret, yet I felt like a stranger standing in the background of someone else's story. As I drove home through the wet slush that afternoon, I finally understood. Most of the relationships I had held on to after 70 were built on shared history, not shared present moments. We still had memories together, yes, but we no longer shared the same daily life. And memories alone are not always enough to keep people close when life changes. I started noticing the other women my age around Akron. There was Helen, still driving across town every week for lunch with her old bridge club, even though most of them spent the afternoon complaining. There was Betty, who cried whenever one of her friends canceled dinner plans because she feared eating alone. I saw pieces of myself in both of them, and it made me uncomfortable. After 70, everything changes. Your body slows down. Your energy becomes valuable. Your time becomes one of the most precious things you own, and suddenly you begin asking yourself different questions. Does this person bring peace into my life, or do I feel drained afterward? Do I feel lighter after we speak, or heavier? Am I spending time here because I truly want to, or because I am afraid of what others might think if I stop showing up? Those questions changed my life. The first small moment happened on the night of my 83rd birthday. I had turned down an invitation from 3 old bookstore friends who wanted to meet at the diner. I was exhausted. My knees hurt. I wanted nothing more than my couch and a good book. But at 9:17 that night, I sat staring at my phone, feeling guilty for saying no. I cried again, not because I missed them, but because I missed the younger version of myself who always said yes to everyone. The second moment happened 2 weeks later. Ethan asked if I would take him to the Science Museum on Saturday. I almost agreed immediately, but then remembered I had promised to visit an old friend in the hospital for a routine checkup. I ended up canceling on my grandson. That night, I lay awake feeling a sadness so deep it settled into my bones. I had chosen obligation over the people I loved most. I promised myself never again. The third moment came on a cold morning in early April. I woke up, made coffee, and sat beside the large living room window. Snow still covered the ground outside. I did not check Facebook. I did not look at my phone. I simply watched a bright red cardinal land on the bird feeder. For 43 minutes, I sat there in silence. And for the first time in decades, I did not feel lonely. I felt peaceful, as though the house and I had finally learned how to live quietly together. That morning, I realized solitude is not punishment. Sometimes it is the place where you finally meet yourself without distraction. And once you meet yourself and learn to enjoy your own company, you stop needing constant reassurance from others. I never made a dramatic announcement. I never sent messages saying I was done with anyone. I simply responded more slowly. I stopped always being the first to reach out. I allowed the distance to grow naturally, the way old rubber bands eventually lose their stretch on their own. Some people never noticed. Others sent a quick, "Is everything okay?" message before fading away themselves. Only 2 women remained quietly and gently in my life without pressure. One is my neighbor Ruth, who brings me tomatoes from her garden every summer. The other is my cousin Diane, who calls once a month so we can talk about absolutely nothing important for 20 minutes. And honestly, that is enough. The beautiful thing is that I learned how to say no kindly. When someone invited me to a gathering I did not wish to attend, I would smile and say, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm protecting my quiet time these days." No excuses, no pretending, just honesty wrapped gently in gratitude. And here is the part that truly healed me. I stopped punishing myself for all the years I spent trying to please everyone. I forgave 83-year-old Flora for finally choosing herself. That forgiveness became the real medicine. Once I stopped pouring my little remaining energy into friendships that no longer fit my life, something beautiful happened. My relationship with Sarah and Ethan became deeper than it had been in years. We do not see each other constantly, but when we do, I am fully there with them. No phone in my hand, no distracted listening while thinking about who I need to call next. Just me, my daughter, and my grandson sharing grilled cheese sandwiches while talking about stars and life. I also began writing in a simple blue notebook that I titled, "Days I Don't Need Anyone." I write down what I cooked, what I read, and how the sunlight looked on the maple tree outside at 4 in the afternoon. Those pages are teaching me that an ordinary life lived with intention can become deeply meaningful. I also learned there is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is feeling disconnected from yourself. Solitude is finally feeling connected to yourself. There is a tremendous difference between the two. My health improved as well. Less stress from trying to keep everyone happy helped me sleep better, lowered my blood pressure, and gave me more energy for the things that truly matter to me now: gardening, reading the classic books I never had time for before, and sitting on my porch watching the world move along without feeling guilty for resting. Most importantly, I learned to respect other people by allowing them to live their lives freely. I stopped believing I was necessary to everyone. That belief had quietly become a kind of selfishness. When I finally let go of it, I gave others the same freedom I had finally given myself, permission to live without the heavy burden of expectations. So here I am at 83, telling you with all my heart that after 70, you truly may not need many friends at all. Not if friendship means chasing people, performing for them, or keeping relationships alive simply because you fear being alone. What you truly need is the calm, steady friendship you build with yourself. If you are watching this at 62, 68, or even 74, and you feel pressure to hold on to every old connection, then let me offer you permission today. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to choose peace instead of popularity. You are allowed to become enough for yourself. Today, after this video ends, I want you to do one small thing. Put your phone on silent for 30 minutes. Sit somewhere comfortable. Take a slow breath. Ask yourself, who or what truly brings me peace right now? Write down the first honest answer that comes to your heart, then honor it. You do not have to do it perfectly. You simply have to begin. Thank you for sitting here with me on Maple Street in Akron, Ohio. I may not know you personally, but I care enough to tell you the truth I wish someone had shared with me years ago. You are already enough. Live gently. Protect your peace. And remember, some of the finest company you will ever keep is your own. I'll be right here if you ever want to sit beside me on the porch in your imagination. Take good care of that beautiful heart of yours.